Okay, I'm going to start the music. Okay? You hear what they said? That's me. They call me the boss with the hot sauce. Oh, you on? Whoop, boop, beep, bop. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Well, how are you? It's good to see that you're, I can't see you, but you can see me, I hope. And I want to say hello to my dearest friend, Gary Anderson. Now, do you know who Gary Anderson is? Certainly you know. Did you do the little twist with the lady twist? Did you dance to quarter to three? Well, that's my dearest friend, and he's a very good friend of Bruce Springsteen. So, Gary, hopefully next week we'll have Gary on the show with me. And we're getting this thing perfected where I spoke to Frankie Valli and I spoke to my dear friends and I spoke to Avalon and Rydell, and we're going to get this together where not only can you see this little pug face, but you can see other people. Now, my guy over here, his name is David Angelo. I call him David Angelo. His real name is Virgilio. And when I first began, I used to have a guy who was my announcer. I used to call him Nickophonic Nick, and he wrote haiku, and his real name was Virgilio. So I think that this man behind the scenes is one of the descendants of Virgilio. Also, besides saying hello to my buddy Gary U.S. Bonds, I want to say hello to a dear friend of mine, Stewie Stone. Stewie Stone once said to me, Rickles would have been nothing without him. He said Henny Youngman was nothing without him. He told me Dick Shawn, these are great comedians, and Alan King all learned from Stewie Stone. And the amazing thing is, he told all these guys, they're all gone, so Stewie is still here. He's listening and looking at me in Florida. So Stewie and Franny, we said hello. Now, as you know, you give me questions, okay? And I've got questions that you've been asking about me for a while now. Someone said to me, oh, and before I get to the questions, I want to thank you. Last night, it was an amazing night at Memories in Margate. As you know, for the people out there, I've said it before, it's been a torturous summer. We were not allowed to be open at Memories in Margate, and you know I had the sign outside that said, I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. But Labor Day weekend, we were able to open up the club, and when I was on stage Labor Day weekend, I'd said to the crowd, how would you like if I continue on a Saturday night? And the place went crazy. So last night was our first Saturday night at Memories in Margate, and it was amazing. People wore their masks when they were on the dance floor. Of course, I had to get up a couple of times and say to them, make sure you dance with your mask. So for all of you, for Janice, for Steve, for the gang from Violin, for Carol, for Jerry, for Linda, little Maria, for Kathy, Joanne, and for Chuck, and for Linda Lee, and all of you that have been a part of my life, I thank you for the support and making last night what it would have been in summertime. So thank you, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again this coming Saturday night in Memories in Margate. Now, I've got questions over here, and I have to put my glasses on because I'm an old fella, Gary. You understand what happens. I've got some questions here, and this is a question from a guy by the name of Richard Brusso, and he says, how old were you when I first began on radio? Well, it's an interesting question because I actually began on radio in 1960. But I think I told you people before that, I was on the road with a group called Danny and the Juniors, and I did radio promotion, promoting records. So I would visit radio stations all around the country, and I would watch the way the disc jockeys would do the show behind the board. So when I went on radio and doing the live broadcast at the Venus Lounge, I knew exactly what to do. When the snowstorm closed the Venus Lounge in 1960, and because I owned the time, I took all my rock and roll records that I danced to and that I bought when I was a kid up to the studio, WCAM in Camden, 1960. And automatically, I knew exactly what to do with the turntables because, as I said, when I was on the road, I visited all the disc jockeys. And it's not really that difficult if you get a feel. Everything is a feel. So I began truly on radio when I was 20 years old, and I have continued on radio all of these years and also have done television. Now, a dear friend of mine has a question. Mary Marucci and her son, the whole family, they're wonderful people. Mary's husband, John, I'm saying hello to you, John. Mary's question is this. How did Al Martino get the part of Johnny Fontaine in the Godfather movie? And was Frank Sinatra upset about it? Yes, Frank Sinatra was upset about that. And I'll answer how he got the role. The guy that was shopping the book that Mario Puzo around to the Hollywood studios was a guy by the name of Al Ruddy. Al Ruddy, I met Al Ruddy when I was with Al Martino in LA at a place called the Daisy, which was a private club. Al Ruddy had the rights to go and shop the movie, the book. And he went all over, and Martino was the guy that helped him with some of the financing and put him in touch with Bob Evans from Paramount Motion Pictures that produced that movie, The Godfather. Because he did that, he was promised the role of Johnny Fontaine. Now, originally, they wanted Vic Damone to do that role. But Frank called up Vic and said, stay away from that. Forget about it. So Al was in line. He had the part. What happened was the director, Francis Ford Coppola, didn't think that Al Martino, who was a singer, was right for the part. And he reluctantly said, well, I don't know if we want Al Martino. I don't know if he can do this role. Meanwhile, Al was also asked at the very beginning if he could go to Italy, true story, and see if Anthony Quinn would take the part. Okay, now remember, Al's going to be the singer, but Marlon Brando has not been cast as of yet. They originally wanted Anthony Quinn. So Al did all of this work, and he went to Italy, and he saw Anthony Quinn, and he said, Anthony, this is a book Mario Puzo wrote. It's called The Godfather. Paramount is going to produce it. Bob Evans, we would like you to do the role. Read for it. Anthony Quinn said, how much money is it? Al said, well, there's really not a lot of money on this. It's maybe $10,000. Anthony Quinn said, Al, you're here in Italy. I own this villa in Italy. I have a summer home in Paris. I have a beautiful place in London. I make a lot of money. $10,000, forget about it. The end of Anthony Quinn. Marlon Brando, by the way, who at that point, his career was basically on a low. He did the part for $10,000. Eventually, he got more when it became such a big success. Now, you got Marlon Brando and you got Francis Ford saying, I don't know about Al Martino. Al reads the role with Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando goes over to Francis Ford Coppola and says, this guy's a singer. How is he going to know about acting? So there was a problem that maybe Al Martino would not get the role. After all of the work that Al did, from the beginning with Al Ruddy, with the book and getting it to Paramount, Al said, I'll tell you what. You're going to film this in New York City. They said, yeah. He said, I've got the role. And he reached out for a friend in New York City, and he got the role because of the fact, how are you going to do a movie about The Godfather and you got to do it in New York City? Well, if Al Martino didn't get the part, they would have had no cooperation from the unions. And you could talk to Al's wife about that. She could tell you about that. So Al Martino got the part. And when he read and when he did the actual scene with Marlon Brando, if you remember when Marlon Brando smacks him. Al said to me, he really smacked me and said, you're a man, you should not be crying. So that's the real story with Al Martino, okay? Sinatra, here's another great story about how Frank reacted to that. And Judy Martino, she was having dinner in L.A. I don't know if it was at the Derby or one of those wonderful places. And Al Martino was having dinner there. And I believe that Mario may have been there, Puzo. And so they walked over to say hello to Frank. And Frank lambasted Mario Puzo in front of Judy. Judy called Al Martino in Las Vegas and said, you have no idea how upset Mario is that Frank really. Martino said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of any conversation with Frank being upset anymore. So that's the story. Okay, Mary? All right. Here's a question. And this is from Hope. I've always heard that Third Finger Left Hand by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, by the way, on the Gordy label, not on Motown, and I Want a Love I Can See by the Temptations were both hits in Philly, but not really anywhere else. True or false? You're right. The hit for Third Finger Left Hand was Jimmy Mack, but when I was on the radio, if you recall, I would also play the B-sides because I was very inquisitive to listen to the other side so I could share the song with my audience. And when I heard Third Finger Left Hand, I loved it just as much as Jimmy Mack. And you also could do a cha-cha to that. So I played that, and that became as big as Jimmy Mack. I Want a Love I Can See by the Temptations was one of the early songs that the Temps did. And here's an interesting point about Martha Reeves and the Vandellas and the Temps. They did not originally record on Motown. They recorded on Gordy. Berry Gordy's first label was Anna. The second label was Tamala. And on Tamala, you had the Marvelettes and you had Marvin Gaye. And on Gordy, you had Martha Reeves and you had the Temptations. And most of that stuff was written by Holland Dozier and Holland. On Motown, the first artist to record on Motown was Mary Wells with a song called Bye Bye Baby. And that's interesting also if you want to know about music. Mary Wells wrote that song, Bye Bye Baby, for Jackie Wilson. And she went to see Berry, and she had the demo. And she said, can you get this to Jackie? Because Jackie and Berry were very close. If you remember, Berry wrote all of the early songs for Jackie Wilson. Lonely Teardrops, Talk That Talk. So Berry listened to the demo. He said, nah, I want to record you. And when he recorded her, if you listen to the songs that she did after Bye Bye Baby, her voice was different. He did like 26 takes on Bye Bye Baby to get the exact sound that he wanted. And that was the first song, by the way, on Motown. Then came My Guy. And if you listen to My Guy, it's a completely different Mary Wells singing. So a little trivia, so you know that, okay? Okay. Anthony Robert, will you keep the Mixcloud stream next year for memories? Yes, we will. And we also, David, we also do it on Facebook as you're doing right now. Am I correct in saying that?
We're doing it on Facebook, but they keep
Yeah.
giving us an issue.
Yeah, Facebook is giving us an issue because they give everybody an issue, right?
Right.
But don't worry about it. We'll get it done, okay? Here we go. This is from a guy by the name of Bob. See, when you get to be my age, you got to do it. Stewie, I'm telling you, Frankie Valli would be in a lot of trouble if you did not do the opening for him when he first began. Anyway, Bob, he says, I don't like to read. Neither do I, because I can't see. But I read your book cover to cover in one weekend on the beach. Great book. And the best part is you signed it. Well, thank you very much. You know, I don't know if I told you guys how I wrote the book. The guy that originally was supposed to write my book was a guy by the name of Nick Pileggi. Now, Nick Pileggi's wife was Nora Ephron, and my dearest friend is Freddie DeMann. Freddie DeMann managed Madonna and managed Michael Jackson and had Shakira and so many Blood, Sweat, and Tears, all those groups and all those major stars, Chicago, Freddie was a manager. So when he managed Madonna, she did the movie, okay, about the league and the baseball thing with Tom Hanks. Nora Ephron, okay, wrote that. The director of that movie was Susan Seidelman. Susan Seidelman came to me and said, listen, there's a part in We Need a Disc Jockey. And I did the voiceover, okay? If you remember the movie, you'll hear she's on the boardwalk and she's listening to me. That's my voice, okay? But what happened was, because of that, I met Nick Pileggi. Freddie DeMann said to me, we're going to have breakfast with Nick Pileggi, and he's thinking about writing a book about your life. So I went to New York with Freddie and Nick Pileggi. We had breakfast. It started at 9:30. It ended at 1 o'clock. When it ended, because I knew everything about my life. I mean, I told him things about my childhood, my mom, my dad, and he kept on asking me questions, and I gave him all of the answers. At the end of the lunch, he said to Freddie, I don't want to write the book. The Geator's got to write the book. His knowledge and his flow and the rhythm of his life, let him write the book, and I'll do the screenplay. So I wrote the book with a wonderful guy by the name of Steve Oskey, and we did it complete in 3 months. And the reason why I did it was because of Freddie DeMann. And another interesting story about that book is that I was with Freddie at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Madonna was inducting David Bowie. I was with Seymour Stein, who I love as a dear friend of mine, and Berry Gordy was there, and all of the guys, the founders of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm sitting with Madonna, and I'm sitting with Freddie, and Springsteen was there, Billy Joel was there. I think Gary U.S. Bonds was also there. Lloyd Price was there. And I'm hearing Madonna throwing all these, I can't say the words that she was saying. And I'm looking around at all of these stars, Springsteen and Billy Joel, and I said, you know, the real stars that I grew up with, Gary U.S. Bonds, Frankie Valli, Little Richard, Fats Domino, Frankie Lyman, and the Teenagers, I said, yeah, that's how I got the idea to put this all together for the book, and it all came together with Nick Pileggi, but that's where it all came from. All right, we got some questions here. Hold on.
Real quick.
Yo.
Keely said you missed Amir's question about songs you made famous.
Oh, someone called. Okay, I got it. Yes, someone said. Okay, I got it. What are some of the songs that you helped make famous? Well, I don't know if you would say I helped make famous. I was lucky enough to be the first guy, because I had the freedom on radio to play music that I wanted to play. Don't Make Me Over by Dionne Warwick. Florence Greenberg, as I've said many times, did not want to release that song. When I went up to see Burt Bacharach, because Florence wanted me to play Foolish Little Girl by the Shirelles, which was going to be the next release, Burt took me in his office and said, I want you to hear something. It was Don't Make Me Over. I heard it by Dionne Warwick. I said, man, this is a smash. Florence does not want to release it with Dionne. She's going to release it with Tommy Hunt. Now, if you listen to the Tommy Hunt version and the Dionne Warwick version, it's the same track. But Dionne's voice knocked me out. I took the demo. Give me the demo. As I'm walking out, Bert Burns calls me. He says, I want you to hear something I just did with the Isley Brothers. Now, these are just some of the songs that I was fortunate enough to play before anyone else played. He played this song called Twist and Shout. I said, I love this. He said, I did this at the end of a session. We only had 10 minutes left for the session. I threw in the Isleys. Ronnie was in doing something next door with the guys in another studio. They ran in and they did it. It was done in 10 minutes. I flipped over the record. Give me the record. Give me the demo. I took the demo back. Boom! Don't Make Me Over, Twist and Shout. Phones went crazy. Record distributors were calling the one-stops, finding about what song is the Geator playing. Now, the interesting thing about Twist and Shout also, the other side, they didn't have time to do a B-side. The other side was the soundtrack, the musical soundtrack. So Twist and Shout, Don't Make Me Over, Quarter to Three with Gary, that song became a hit because of a dance called the Dixon House in South Philadelphia. The guy that produced it was the owner of the label. His name was Frank Guida. Okay, the name of the label was called Le Grand, out of down south. Okay, and he came up. His record distributor at that time was a guy by the name of Ed Heller, the record distributor on North Broad Street. See, back then, record distributors had all different labels. Ed Heller had Le Grand, he had Sue, which was Ike and Tina Turner. And when Frank Guida played this, I said, man, this is a smash. I took the demo, started to play it, and the other side was A Night with Daddy G, the B-side, okay? And the kids were dancing to South Street to that. So Quarter to Three, Don't Make Me Over, He's So Fine, Twist and Shout. I can go on and on and on. These are all the songs that I had the freedom to play because format radio back then would not play a song unless it was charted in another city or charted with Billboard or Cashbox. Me, I play music from the heart, not a research chart. So there were so many songs that Sherry, with my buddy Frankie Valli, I told you the story, it's in the book. There was a record convention in Florida, 1962, at the Fontainebleau. And I went down with Nat Sigel, Dayton. You remember him as my manager. And I went down as the guest of Abner Hewitt from VJ Records because I busted a song by Jerry Butler called Make It Easy on Yourself. And that's another interesting story because that's not the original version. The original version was by Dionne Warwick. But Florence Greenberg did not want to release that. She held it back. Bert flew into Chicago, did the song with Jerry Butler, and it was a smash. So I went to Florida as a guest of Abner. When I'm at the bar, Bob Gaudio is there, and he had just left, and Bob Crew was there. Crew and Gaudio wrote the songs, as you know, for the seasons. So Bob said to me, I got to see Morris Levy. I got a song that he's interested in. I think it's a smash. And back then, everybody at the convention had these little record players where you could put the record right there at the bar and listen to it. I heard this. I said, man, Crew, this is a smash. Tell Morris it's a no-brainer. Let him pick up the master. I love it. This is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I go around, hang out, get a couple of drinks. Nat and I go down for dinner about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And there's Bob Crew at the bar getting drunk. So I say, yo, my man, you made a score. He said, score my ass. He said, Morris Levy says that this is the worst piece of shit he ever heard. I said, listen, hold it. I said to the bartender, can I have the bar phone? At the bar, he gives me the phone. I call Abner. I say, Ab, I want to come up to the studio. I want to come up wherever you are, okay? He had 2 big suites with big speakers. I want you to hear something. I think it's a smash. Yeah, Geator, come on up. I go up with Crew, put it on the turntable, a demo. Abner, who had an ear, said, Geator, yo, Bob, I think this is something we're interested in. Tell me about the group. Crew says, well, it's a combination of Gaudio, who did a song called Short Shorts with the Royal Teens, and Frankie Valli, with Frankie and the Romans, and who had a song, and also did a group, Four Lovers. And Abner turns to me and said, Geator, it's a white group. I said, Ab, what's that got to do with music? I mean, music hits every year. White, black, pink, blue, any nationality, all over the world, music. He said, yeah, but we're a black label. We don't get white play unless, like a guy like you broke Make It Easy. So all of the format stations went on and busted it. I said, Abner, it's a hit. He said, but I don't know if the Black Cats are going to play it. I said, I'll tell you what, give me the demo. I went back to WCAM in Camden, New Jersey. True story. It's in the book also. And played that 2 or 3 times a night. Kids went crazy. You know what the song was? Sherry, 1962. As a matter of fact, I have in my library somewhere the original demo that I played. Now, remember, when I would play a song, kids would call up and request a dedication. The requests for this song and all of the songs that I just mentioned were coming through. Play this for Mary, for Joe, for what? For the gang from St. Marie Goretti, for the gang from St. Tommy Moore. Now, kids are going to the record stores asking for this music that I play. The record stores say, we didn't hear it. We don't know what you're talking about. They would call the record distributors up. The record distributors would then go to the one-stops. The one-stops would say, we don't know about it. Until the record label, somebody realized that this is on this label or that label. They didn't have a label yet. Mainline Records, which was their distributor for VJ, Barry Goldner, called me. He said, you're playing a song by the Four Seasons. We don't know what label it's on. Everybody's getting calls. I said, I spoke to Abner about it. It should be on VJ. You are the distributor for VJ. He said, Abner? I said, yeah, give Abner a call. He called Abner in Chicago. Barry Goldner, who was the distributor for VJ, called. Abner called me the next day. He said, tell Crew, I want to talk to him. I want to make a deal. You realize that the Four Seasons were the first white group ever to record on an all-owned black label, VJ? VJ had the Spaniels, Jerry Butler, they had the Dells, they had all the cats that were the real soul guys. So there's another song that we busted. So I can go on and on and on. The secret, and I'll tell you, freedom with the arts. If you're a performer, certainly you have an act, but you have to have the freedom to do this with it, do that with it, change it. And my freedom has always been that I can play what I want to play. If I like it, I want to share it with an audience. And that's the way it's been. Let me tell you, with Gary U.S. Bonds and with all these wonderful performers, and Dion and Avalon, remember, they were all young kids. This industry, Bobby Darin, Connie Francis, all were young kids who had an opportunity to sign with a record company. Gaudio and Crew were producing, and then they would try and get the product with a label. And that's the way it was. That's the way it was back then. So no longer the same. It's very difficult for young people to get an opportunity to record. And if you record today, where do you go? I don't know how this thing works today. Back then, you recorded, the record company did the pressing, they sent the promotion copies out to the promotion guy, to the record distributor then took the record and with the promotion guy to the radio stations, and you would play all these songs. I'll give you another song, talking about Freddie DeMann. How we became friends, he was working for a guy called Jerry Blaine, who had a record label called Jubilee, okay? And Jubilee had a lot of subsidiary labels. And Freddie came into town, and back then, I did my show from my garage in South Philly. And I'd knock at the door, and I'd say, come on in, and I'd be moving and grooving. And he came in, Killcycle Pete let him in, and he said, hi, I'm Freddie DeMann. I work for Jerry Blaine. I've got these records here. Please give a listen to them. I can't get anybody to play it. So I played 1, 2, 3 records. Then I played a song called I Love You by the Volumes. Doom, 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 doom. It was on Czech. CHEX. Doom, 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 doom. I said, Freddie, forget the other 4 songs you played. This is a hit. And he says to me, but you know, I ain't got no money on this. I said, Freddie, I don't take money. If I like the song, I'm going to play it. Don't worry about it. He said, I may lose my job. I said, the record's a hit. Went back to New York, I played it. Kids called up on the phones. They wanted to hear it. Boom, 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 boom. Record was a hit. So if you have the freedom, and if someone said to me, what is the greatest asset that I have as a disc jockey? An ear. I hear music. There is not a day that does not go by in my life that I don't hear music. Whether it's rhythm and blues or rock and roll, Frankie Valli, Frank Sinatra, Shirley Bassey, I hear music. I hear music and da 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 da. I'm not kidding you. I hear music in a whole different way. Dion of the Belmonts, Where or When. Tell you a great story about that. Dion did not want to do classics. He thought, That's My Desire, When You Wish Upon a Star, Where or When. There was a great album that they did, okay. Dion resisted doing that. He said, nah, man, we want to sing rock and roll and street corner harmony. But the classics, if you take Dion of the Belmonts and you take that sound and take Where or When, or That's My Desire, young kids would hear it completely different than the original version by Frank Sinatra, Rodgers and Hart. Same thing, by the way, when you talk about the Flamingos. The Flamingos recorded an album called Flamingo Serenade. Every song, you didn't realize it when I was playing it, was a classic song written by Rodgers and Hart. Victor Young, written by Johnny Mercer, written by Jerome Kern, but with that harmony that they had, brand new. So music, in my ear, I hear it. And when I do my show on WXPN, I just don't play rhythm and blues and rock and roll. I do an hour. It's called the Geator's Rock and Roll Rhythm and Blues Express, 88.5 WXPN. When I'm in the mood, and when I got my rhythm going, I play anything. I will do doo-wop, street corner. I will do blues. I will do rhythm and blues. I will do rock and roll, because that's the music of America. It's the music which is the greatest music of our time that brought people together. As I told you with Abner, he said, we got a black label. It doesn't matter. Music knows no bounds. Music reaches your ear regardless of race, color, creed, denomination. That's what America is about. Music brings people together, and we need more of that today. Music that tells a story. I Only Have Eyes for You. Music that tells a story. Music that makes you want to dance. 2:45, Dear Lady Twist, Not Me. I can go on and on and on. Big Girls Don't Cry. And that's another great thing about music. This city that I live in is very important, not only for music, but for dancing, because of a show called Bandstand. Bandstand originally began in 1952 with Bob Horn. Dick Clark took it over in 1956. Bandstand was a dance show, the first national show that had kids dancing. It wasn't the first show that locally didn't have. There were a lot of shows. Mitch Thomas, my dear friend, Georgie Woods later on had his own dance show. But because of Bandstand, kids would dance to every different song. You would do a cha-cha. You would do a tango. You would do a jitterbug. You would do the slap. You know how you do the slap? You put your hand in your pocket and you whoop and you do all that. So Philadelphia was the dance capital of the world. And I must tell you, Berry Gordy acknowledged that. When Berry would send the artist in to my show, the discophonic scene, my show was strictly 1 hour dancing. Man, I was on the podium and I'd be dancing. We had the Tops. We had the Temptations, man. We had Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. We had the Marvelettes. And we also had Fats Domino and Little Richard. Also had Clara Ward. I mean, so I featured everything. And for 1 hour, kids were dancing to the music. And that's the secret. You listen to music, you identify with it. If it's got a rhythm and a beat, and you've got rhythm in your heart, and you've got soul in your heart, you're going to dance to it. That's America. That's the story of rock and roll. Okay? Okay, another question. Janice Canfield, how did the song South Street by the Orleans come about? Is it Philly's South Street or where? Yes. It's on Cameo Parkway. South Street was a copy of a song called, well, going back, Mashed Potatoes was a copy of a song called Please Mr. Postman. South Street was almost a copy of Not Me, which Gary U.S. Bond had the original, and the Orleans covered it and had a hit. But that beat, where do all the hippies meet? Da 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 da, was written by Cal Mann and Dave Apple. They took it from a street called South Street in Philadelphia. That was Cameo Parkway. And remember now, the secret of Cameo Parkway, everything that they recorded with Chubby Checker, with Dee Dee Sharp, the Dobells, was a dance song. You got it? South Street, you did the dance called the South Street or the Crossfire to that. And the interesting thing is, as I said to you, Berry knew the importance. Marvin Gaye, Ain't That Peculiar? You did the Wagner Walk. Third Finger Left Hand, Jimmy Mack. You did a cha-cha. Come and Get These Memories, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. You did a cha-cha. You know, the Supremes, When the Love Light Shines Through His Eyes. That's one of the first songs that they had. Became a big hit in Philadelphia. Berry sent them in because the kids were doing a line dance to it. And the line dances came from Wagner's. If you develop the dance at Wagner's Ballroom, I would call it, when I play the record, here's the dance, the Wagner Walk, to Take Me in Your Arms by Kim Weston. So Philly has always been a breakout market because of Bandstand. And I will never forget when Dick Clark was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I did the liner notes for him. And there was a reluctance for the fathers to induct him because back then there was Cameo Parkway and there was the fact that there was the payola going on. Okay, but everybody back then, that was a way of life. I mean, until Congress came up, disc jockeys, that was the thing, you know. So there was a reluctance and he finally got inducted. And he thanked me. And I wrote in the article before he accepted his award, I said, every one of the artists here and every one of the record companies owe a great, great tribute and a special thanks to this man that's being inducted tonight. Because if it wasn't for Dick Clark, so many of the record companies, independent little record companies, Cameo Parkway, Swan, Laurie, I can go on and on and on, became big labels because Dick Clark played it on Bandstand. Before that, all of the major labels would cover all of the little R&B artists. When Dick Clark played a song nationally, like Quarter to Three or Sherry, no major label had an opportunity to bring their artist and cover it. So I said that, must acknowledge what Dick Clark did. And even to today, Carrie Clark, who I love, his wife, I send them macaroni. I send Sinatra macaroni, Toludo's macaroni. I send wine to all my friends. And you know who loves wine? Frankie Avalon. You know who loves macaroni? Frankie Avalon. You know who loves macaroni? Frankie Valli. You know who loves wine? Gary U.S. Bonds. That's the greatest gift. Wine and macaroni. You share it, especially during the holidays. Okay? All right, here we go. I want to say hello, by the way, my little great-grandson. He's probably watching right now, and I snap my fingers and his eyes get big. I haven't seen him because of the quarantine, but I see him Facebook, you know, and I kiss his little picture. So little Michael, little Joseph Michael Downey. And I want to say hello to all my kids, my grandkids, because I don't want to say he didn't say hello to me. All my grandkids, Kathy's kids, Jerry, I love you, Jerry. I mean, it's all my kids. Family to me is most important. Okay, here we go. Where we go? Where we to go? Mary Zinn, you are, what's it say? You are so skilled, have an excellent insight. I can't see the rest of that. Hold on. Oh, no, forget. She says, you're so skilled, you have an insight. That's why you're a legend. Thank you. But listen, guys, I've just been fortunate from an early age to find music and pursue a career that I never thought I would ever have. I mean, I never planned to do this. Whatever came into my mind. I mean, when I lost the TV show, because I did a movie with Sammy Davis, which was a bomb called Psycat, I blew my TV career. I was on TV people say, how'd you lose the TV show? Well, we were on 5 days a week, and the show was #1, was called Jerry's Place. I flew out, I did the Monkees, I did a Mod Squad with Sammy, and when I came back, I was offered a role in a movie with Gary Merrill called Psycad. And Gary Merrill, by the way, hated me. Same thing with Marlon Brando, with Martino. Well, she's a disc jockey. What does he know about acting? So every time I would do a scene with Gary Merrill, he would chew garlic. And he'd go, well, what are you doing in the store, huh? And I go, huh? Why don't you stop chewing garlic? Cut! But we became dear friends. So because of the movie, I had to be away from my TV show for 6 weeks. We shot it up in Chadsford. And so five days a week, away 6 weeks, we would have guest hosts. Okay, Rydell did it one time. Al Alberts did it another time. I think Connie Francis did it another time, because I would have a host every week, okay, co-host. But the ratings went boom, flat. So when I got back, after we shot this thing in September, my contract is up in December 1970. And George Kohler, WFIO, Walter Annenberg owned the station at that time, says to me, listen, you can't be away from doing your show more than a week. I said, George, I'm sorry. You told me about the ratings. I said, but look, because of this movie, I have just been offered another role for $25,000 with Dan Blocker and Phyllis Diller. And it was called Calliope. Okay, that was the second one, Psycat and Calliope. He said, well, you got a decision to make. We will renew your contract in December of '69, going into '70, okay? But you got to be here. So I sat with Nat Sigel, my manager, and I sat with a couple of guys, lawyers, and they said, listen, you've been doing TV since 1965. This is now going 1969, going into '70. They say you're really good at this acting thing. They think the Monkees that you did was great. The thing with Mod Squad, you know, give it a shot. So I said to George Kohler, George, I'll tell you what. In January of 1970, instead of me doing 5 days a week, let me give you an hour show on Sundays, okay, for 13 weeks, because I'm going to go out to the coast and do this movie. I had to be on the coast. He said, okay, we'll cancel the 5-day-a-week show, and we'll give you 13 weeks. And to make a long story short, they put the show between 4 and 5 on Sundays. That's called the Rugged Cross. Why? You have football, NFL, AFL. Great show. Did nothing. That ended by 13 weeks. In the meantime, I fly out to the West Coast because now they want to get a film distributor to distribute the movie that I did with Gary Merrill and Sammy Davis called Psycad. And if you've ever been in LA trying to shop a movie with a producer and a director. You go in this little theater, whether it's Paramount, and it's maybe 60 seats, and they show the movie to all of the distributors that are going to distribute this movie. Sammy was with me, okay? Mickey Rudin was also there, okay? Billy Sturgis was there, who managed Jackie Gleason. These are all my friends, okay? And I'm right up front with Sammy, and the movie comes on, and Gary Merle, and introducing Jerry Blavat. I go, wait. Halfway through the movie, and there's maybe about 15 distributors behind us, I hear people walking out. People walking out. Bullets tags me. He says, listen, you better hope this movie never gets released. If it does, you have no career. You might be the best thing in this movie, but this is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. The lights go on. The only person left is me and Sammy, Dick Bartlett, who's the director, H.G. Peters, who was the producer, and they're applauding, and they turn around, there's nobody. I said, when I went back to Philadelphia, I knew this movie would never be made with Phyllis Diller and Dan Blocker. And that was the end of my TV movie career. So what did I do? I formed a group of musicians called the Geator Men. And that's just showing you where I've created show business for myself and for my family. And I worked the clubs. I worked the 500 Lounge. I worked Dick Lee's. I also worked for Skinny at the 500 in Atlantic City with 7 great musicians doing, do you like good music? Yeah, yeah. Hey now, hey now, hey now. It's finger popping time. So I did that, and I made money. I did well, and then I went back on radio on WCAM in Camden, New Jersey. And I started my career all over in the beginning of 1970, 71. And I just kept on doing. So the secret of what I've done, and by the grace of God, I've had the faith, I've got a guardian angel, and I've never said no. If my mind thought about it, I think I could make it work. It's like the book. I told you the book came out of Nick Pileggi, Freddie DeMann, me at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, looking at all these guys saying, I could write a book. And Freddie says, yeah, Nick Pileggi and Steve Oskey. So who knows what tomorrow will hold for me? I only know that we're living in not good times, not only with the pandemic, but I think that this world, through this, I think we're becoming robots. Kids don't talk to each other one-on-one, eye to eye. They text, they tweet, social media. When I grew up, if you had a beef, what's the problem? Let's sit down, let's talk about it. You can't text. I mean, I go to CBS. You don't have somebody at the clerk. You got to go beep, bop, bop. Please put your thing right over here and push this button over here. We're living in a world of robots. I never grew up like this. I want to be with people. People need people. All of this situation that's happening in the world today, people have to get together and talk and talk. We live in the greatest country in the world, America. No other country would allow me the freedom to do what I do. But I've done it with class, respect. I've done it with integrity. And my motto is, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's a lot of things wrong in this country, but there's a lot of things wrong throughout the entire world. And through patience and through dialogue, we'll get things right. And remember, the Supreme Court of the United States, whatever the problems are, if a policeman comes up to me, his job, if I did something wrong, is to arrest me. I get bail. I got to go before a judge. His job is to listen to the story, and if I'm free, if I'm innocent, that's it. We got to go back to understanding that this is what America is about. People coming together, all races, all nationality, all denominations, and music is what I've been able to do to bring people together. And that's the true story about my life. I hope I didn't bore you. All right, what's this now? Eric, great disc jockey. Eric, you know, you're a great disc jockey, but you have to have humility, and you have to know what's real and who's not real and who is truly good. And you're a good disc jockey. Do you think the Motown sound overshadowed what was going on with the Philly music scene in the early 60s? No. The early Philly R&Bs that were scattered among the local labels and your appearance on the Monkees is one of my favorite. Thank you, Eric. No, let me tell you what killed, my opinion, our music, Eric. And no disrespect, when the British invasion came into America at the end of 1962, every radio station, which was formatted anyway, where they would only play 40 records with a couple of songs bubbling under, played nothing but English. So all of the wonderful little artists on the little labels, American artists, could not get to play. I played it because I had the freedom to do that. But format radio really hurt because of everything. If you recall, you would look at a format list. If there were 40 records, guarantee 30 or 25 would be English. And that's what really hurt the industry. With black music, though, with Motown and with R&B, all of the black stations, such as I didn't play English. We played Motown, we played Philly sound, we played all that. And R&B always came through because of the little black stations only at the other end of the dial. All right, Eric? My man. Let's see what else we got here. Were you ever in a musical group? Okay, this is from Ali Toten Lavicchio, ma tu sono Italian, Vegiccio, huh? Well, no, I sang with the group. When I was a kid, I played drums. I have a rhythm, you know. So, Jay Michaels, Jerry, loving this presentation, and since you were talking about the Four Seasons, yeah, Tommy DeVita is not doing well, ladies and gentlemen. I spoke with Frankie Valli. He was on a respiratory. Tommy, as you know, is one of the original Four Seasons. Let me see that again, what he says. But he's not doing well. Jay Michaels, yeah. I was with him in Vegas 2 weeks ago when we gave Joey D Hall of Fame award. He went into the hospital with COVID, yeah. Yeah, Frankie Valli called me. Well, you know, Gaudio's left, Frankie's left. These are the giants. Frankie Valli, my dear friend who I love, and Stewie Stone. I kid Frankie. I say, you'll be nothing without Stewie Stone. You got to understand, and I have always said this, even with Dion and Chubby and Rydell and Avalon, we're performers. And I consider myself a performer. I really do, because when I'm on stage, I'm doing whatever I have to do to make people happy. When you don't have an audience to do this for, it's earth-shattering. I mean, how much macaroni sauce can you make, Frank? Gary, how much wine can you and I drink? I mean, I got to get out. I got to make people happy. That's why I'm doing Saturday nights at Memories in Margate. And I'm going to be back at Dover Downs for my buddy Phil Giuliano. I'm going to be back at the casinos. I'll be back working. Okay, and I promise I'll be back with you, and I'll be dancing, because not only do I need that, but you need that. I mean, it's so difficult for people at our age to get up in the morning, have no purpose. Man, it's like Groundhog Day. I get up in the morning, push-ups, sit-ups, beep, on the bike, go to the gym, and I come back, and I come into my little studio, and I become like Frankenstein. I play music. I create my music. That's the story of life. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Pasquale, what did you say? It's another guy. Pasquale. Did you know Sam Hodge? Wow. Let me tell you about this guy, Sam Hodge. Sam Hodge, Jamie Guyton Records out of Philadelphia. Sam Hodge was the guy who put up the seed money. Sam Hodge had a pressing plant on American Street. And when I was a kid, I would go into the pressing plant and he would give me all of the new releases by Fats Domino. Pressing plant is where you press all of the songs for the different labels. Sam Hodge was a terrific, terrific guy and responsible for Jamie Guyton Records out of Philadelphia. Okay, what else? Eric, again, give us your top 5 favorite Philly radio DJs. You know, Eric, format radio, Joe Niagara, great format disc jockey. The best was Humble Harvey Miller. High Lit was a format disc jockey. Jerry Stevens was a format disc jockey. When I say format, it's 5 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, and here it is, the new song by Boop. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, and now here's a great song by Boop. They ran by a clock. News, weather, you can only talk in and out. They had great voices. I never had a great voice. The great disc jockeys never had great voices. Georgie didn't have a great voice. He had a rap. The greatest of them all was Jocko. Jocko Henderson was not a young man when he became a disc jockey. Jocko was a school teacher. His dad was a principal in Baltimore. Jocko learned his rap from the real ace from outer space by the name of Hot Rod Hubert. And guys like Porky Chedwick out of Pittsburgh, guys out of Hunter Hancock, going back, Dick Biondi out of Chicago. These were the disc jockeys that developed a rap. So I was influenced by all of the cats that really had the soul and all that. Lloyd Fatman. I worked with the best. So there's the difference between format guys. They were all great. But the real disc jockeys were the black cats who came up with a persona. According to the big tick-tock on the tower power clock, I rock that big tick-tock. This is the Geator with the heater being on the record. A pleader sang, a wop, 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 a cheep, boop. Nobody taught me that. A rhythm that comes up. Listen, Eric, and for all you guys out there that want to be disc jockeys, learn your own rap. Don't follow anybody else. Be influenced, but create your own persona. All right? That's the story. Be ahead of the game, okay? There you go. Where are we at now? Here we go. How and where can you get the original albums for young teens, for lovers only? They were very cool. I love them. This is MacArthur. Well, we have all of these CDs available, right? And you can go onto my Facebook, Geator.net. Keely will tell you how to do all that stuff. I'd be lost without Keely. Be lost without this guy, David. Be lost without, yet, even you, Joe. Even though you're late, even though I can't get you on the phone, I love you. Because Joel Stevens is probably one of the most talented young people I have met. But you gotta get him when you can get him. That's why you're still with me, Joel, because I love your talent. Yeah.
Did you think about putting the albums on Amazon?
Did I think about putting the albums on Amazon?
Where they can get them?
Yeah, I mean, look, David, I'm brain dead. See, I'm talking to you. I'm envisioning it where you are. I talk to people. Now I'm talking to a camera. I hate this modern stuff. I swear. I don't like it. I can't adapt to it. Gary, how about you? Gary U.S. Bonds. Can you? Yeah, I know. Frankie Valli's got Dean, the Ignator. I got me. I got Keel. That's about it. Okay? Okay. Here we go. Okay. What is Jerry's fitness routine? I know what my body. I mean, I know what I got to do. I mean, I'll show you what I can do if I want. I can do all this. See? I can do all this. I can do all that. See? I do whatever my body tells me to do. I mean, what else?
Got time for one more.
Time for one more? Mean we're done? How about, I'm sorry for you people that I didn't get a chance to answer your questions. You get me going. I talk about show business. And Stewie Stone, I want you to get strong. All right, my pal. And Franny, I love you. I had dinner with Stewie Stone in Florida. He is one of the, there's something about you people don't know about comedians. You see a comedian on stage, they're angry, they're yelling, and they're throwing jokes. That's not who they are. That's the act. If you would have known Don Rickles like I knew Don, he was the most humble human being in the world. And when I was his valet, I learned from him. I learned from Sammy Davis. I learned watching Sinatra. I learned always listen. Always be with people smarter than you. Always listen. Always look. Don't think you know it all. You learn from these people who came before. And I still learn, because I learn what I have to do when I see the audience. If the audience is not reacting to something I'm playing, I'm moving on. I know I'm doing something that's not hitting. So that's it. Is that it?
That's it.
Listen, thank you for allowing me just to be me. I have no other way to live, and that's the only way I can live. I'll see you at Memories in Margate, Saturday night, starting at 7 o'clock, and it's on Facebook, which goes off and on, and it's also on Mixcloud, okay? Stewie, Franny, take care of my man Stewie. Love you, and keep on rocking, because you only rock once.